chapter 1 test redo video, and I'm going to go extremely quickly. I'm not going to give you the answers, but hopefully lead you to the correct answer. Number 1, what is another name for Ray BJ? Ray BJ. Goes from here down through there. All that matters with the ray is that it has the same starting point, but it goes in the same direction. Well, what other letter could you use? You're still going to have to use B, but what other letter could you use other than J and show that same ray? So that should help you with number 1. Number 2, what's another name for segment BJ? So now we're just going from B to J. Well, if you walk from B to J, that's going to be walking the same distance as somebody who walked, and then that's the way you could name it. So a segment. Next one, they give us this segment. Things to remember, you're not starting at 0, you're starting here, so when you count, that's 1 inch, 2 inches, so on and so on. And then also remember that there's 16 marks in here, so you're going to have your whole number, and then you're going to have a fraction, and on the bottom of that fraction is going to be 16. And in this case, you'll have to reduce it once you get whatever goes on top there, and you get what goes on top by counting the spaces from here out to where it goes there. Don't count my spaces because I didn't do it right, but you count how many spaces out you go there. So you're going to have a whole number, that top number that you got there, over 16, and then this one's going to have to be reduced. Number 4, this time you're measuring in centimeters. Well, we're starting here, we're not starting at 0, so again you got to count spaces. 1, and it looks like it almost makes it out to 7, but not quite. So what you're going to have to do is count how many spaces are in there, and remember your answer is going to be as a decimal. So how many total centimeters you have goes out in front, and then the little spaces that you count goes at the back side. Number 5. Says find the midpoint of that. You could use a graph if you wanted. Easiest way to find the midpoint, you just use the formula. X plus X divided by 2, Y plus Y divided by 2. All you're going to do is use that. Remember, this is an X, that's an X, that's a Y, that's a Y. You set up this formula. So here I'm going to put in -3 plus 7, that's our 2 X's, divided by 2. And our y's are 0 and -8, so 0 plus a -8 divided by 2. When you get your answer, you do the math here, you write that answer down here, do the math here, write that answer down here, and that ordered pair is your answer. To find the length of AC, all you're going to do is use the segment addition property, or postulate. This segment, so segment AB plus segment BC, that segment should equal the whole thing. And that's going to be your answer. Just this segment plus this segment plus this segment equals the whole thing. Number 7. Same idea. Sorry, my thing looks so crappy here, but this time segment addition postulate, except you're saying this segment plus this segment should equal this whole thing. Well, this time they tell you the whole thing, so instead of adding, you'd have to say the whole thing minus this part, and that's going to leave you with the part that you want. Number 8. My segment here got, my tick mark got not put on there somehow. So we have this, these tick marks tell us that these two segments are congruent to each other. And that tells us that M is the midpoint of segment AB. And since we know these two are congruent, all you're gonna do is take these two expressions and set them equal to each other. So you got 4x minus 13 equals 3x minus 5. You solve that, you're gonna figure out what x is. Once you figure out what x is, then you take x and plug it back into one of these. You plug whatever x is, whatever number it is, back into x right there, and do the math there, and that's gonna tell you how long segment MB is. Well, however long segment MB is, segment AM has to be the same thing. And they want you to find the length of the whole thing, so all you're gonna do is take the answer you get there and the answer you get there and add them together, and that'll give you the whole thing. But first you gotta solve this to find x and then plug x back in. Number 9, find the perimeter. Gotta graph this. I'm gonna graph it real quick. 1, -6, so you go out, go to the right 1, down -6. That's A. B is 1, -3. And C is -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, -6. That's our triangle. We want the perimeter of that triangle. These two sides, this side and this side, you can just count. And I'm gonna leave the counting up to you. You can just count those. When we get those, we're gonna add them together, but first we gotta find this side so we can get the whole perimeter. Well, the way we're gonna find that side is by using B and C and using the distance formula. And I'm gonna set up the distance formula here for B and C. Remember, your x's go in this first set of parentheses, your y's go in the second set. This is an x, that's an x, that's a y, that's a y. So your x's are 1 and -4. Your y's are -3 and -6. Both these, a negative and a minus sign there together, you can change them to positive, and then you're just gonna do the math. 1 plus 4 is going to give you 5, then you're going to square it, and I'm going to let you do all that. Once you get this down here at the bottom, don't forget to take the square root of all of this. When you do all the math, take the square root of that. It's going to give you an answer, just a number, and that number, whatever the square root of that was, that number is going to be the length of that. Then you're going to add that length, this length all together to get the perimeter. Number 10, find the area. And I'm gonna draw this real quick again. This time they tell us A is 1, 2, so the right one up 2, that's A. B is 1, -5, so right 1, down 2, 3, 4, 5, that's B. C is 5, -5, 3, 4, 5, -5, that's C. And D is 5, 2. To the right 5, up 2, that's D. So we have this shape, which this shape is a rectangle. Remember, formula for area of a rectangle is length times width. All you're going to do to find your length, 1, 2, and you just count all that, the length of that side, so you count that. That's going to go right there for length. Count the width here, put it in there. Multiply those two together and it's going to give you the area. Number 11, find the perimeter. Another 4-sided figure. Graph it again. -1, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's A. -1, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's B. -6. -4, C, and D is -6, 5. So we have another rectangle. You're trying to find the perimeter, so what you're going to have to do, count the length of this side, 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 this whole thing down through here, and then you're gonna add up all of those numbers, and that's gonna give you the perimeter. Number 12. Number 12 was the sandbox one. You have to be careful on the sandbox one, because when you look over here at your numbers, they want you to find area, so area is going to be length times width again because it's a rectangle, but when you look at your numbers, notice that each space this time isn't going by ones, it's going by twos. So when we count this, it's not 2, the length of that side ends up being 4. Then you gotta count this and find the length of that side. And all you're gonna do is plug in here, your length times your width. So one of them's gonna be 4 times whatever you get when you count that one, multiply those together, and that's gonna give you your area. Number 13. 13, we look at this and we know that angle BDA there is a straight angle. Well, if it's a straight angle, then that tells us it has to be 180 degrees. So this plus this has to equal 180. I'm going to set up this equation for you. Negative 7x plus 12 plus negative, and we probably didn't need the plus in there, negative 8x plus 48. Those two added together, that one and that one added together, should total up to the whole thing, which is 180. Collect like terms, I'll actually solve this one for you, and then you're going to have to plug it back in. So you got negative 15x, 12 and 48 give us 60, equals 180. Subtract 60 on both sides. You end up with 120 on that side. These cancel out. Negative 15x on this side. Divide by negative 15. These cancel out. You're left with x equals positive divide by negative. I know it's going to be a negative answer. 15 will go into 12 8 times, I believe. So our x is negative 8. They didn't ask us to find x. They asked us to find the measure of angle BDC. BDC, which is right here. So you're going to take negative 7, in place of x right there, you're going to put in negative 8 plus 12. And you do that math, and that's going to give you your answer. Number 14, they said find the measure of angle BDC, which is this angle. Well, this little red box right here tells us this is a right angle, so that tells us 90 degrees. That's not our answer, but we know that these two angles together have to add up to equal 90, so I'm going to set up this equation. You're going to have to solve this one yourself. Negative 3x plus 20 plus, and I shouldn't have done that again, negative 3x plus 20, it's plus a negative 2x, so I'm just going to put minus 2x plus 55 equals 90. I'll simplify it down one step for you. Collect the x's, you get negative 5x, that takes care of those. 20 and 55 give you 75, equals 90. Now you're going to have to solve for x, figure out what x is. Once you know what x equals, then we're trying to find this angle right here. So you're just going to take that x and you're going to plug it right back into there in place of x, and that's going to give you the measure of angle BDC. Next one, key thing here, ray RT bisects this angle. Well, if it bisects angle SRQ, then we know this angle is congruent to that angle. They tell us that QRT, this angle right here, is 54, didn't work very well, I'm going to do it here, 54 degrees. Well, if you know that angle is 54 degrees and you know that these two are congruent, then you know something about this angle, and they actually ask us to find the whole angle. So to find that whole thing, you're going to take this measurement and what you get here, add them together, and that'll give you the whole angle. That'll be your answer. Number 16, they tell you angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary, and angle 1 66 degrees. Well, what's complement mean, or complementary mean? Means they add up to 90. So if one of the angles is 66, and you're trying to find the other angle, all you gotta do is subtract from 90, and that's gonna give you the complement. 17, you look at the little forklift and stuff there on 17, they tell you angle 1 is 6 degrees, and we know that they're supplementary. Well, supplementary means the two angles have to add up to 180. So if one of them's 6, then we find the other one by subtracting from 180. Name the angle in all ways. This is number 18. Different ways to name this angle. Remember, you can name it with just the number. Make sure you're using your symbols. So I'll give you that one. Angle 8 is one way to name it. You can name it by starting here and going around. Remember, your vertex letter has to be the middle letter. You can start on this side and go around, and your vertex letter has to be the middle letter. Since there's only one angle in this picture, you could also name it with just the vertex letter. 19 through 22. You're going to have to find the lengths of all the sides on, or all the segments in this picture. That segment, I can just count, is 3. This segment going up and down here is 4. And you can, all the vertical and horizontal segments, you can count them and find them yourself. The ones that are going to matter are segment AB and segment CD. Those you'll have to use the distance formula on, and I'll set up the distance formula for you. Then you'll have to do it yourself. And then once you find that, just remember the formula for area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. Area of a rectangle is just length times width. And for perimeter, you just add all the sides. So you just add the lengths to the sides. But the first thing you're going to have to do is go through here and find all these lengths. For segment AB, point A is, we go out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to the left 5, so that's a -5. Let's go ahead and write this down. -5, and then down 3, so -3, that's A. B, the coordinates are left 1, so -1, up 1. C, the coordinates are right 1, 2, so +2 and up 1. And D, the coordinates are right 1, 2, 3, 4, and down 1, 2, 3, so -3 there. And all we're going to do for A and B, we're going to take the x's, so -5 minus a -1 plus, and then take the y's, -3 minus 1. Do all that math there. Get your calculator out and do the square root. Remember here, you're going to change that to plus. Then do all the math, find the square root of it, and that's going to tell you the length of segment AB right there. Segment CD, same kind of setup. Just use those coordinates. Our x's this time are 4 and 2, so 4 minus 2 squared, plus our y's this time, which is -3 minus 1 squared. To do all that math, that's going to give you the length of that segment. Then you can use all that to find the perimeter and the area of all the different shapes in there. 23, name 3 different angles. I'm going to trace them for you, then you'd have to name them. Make sure that you use the angle symbol on all 3 of your answers. Here's the first angle. That's one of them. Second angle is this green one. Remember, when you name it, it's just like you're walking around it. So we start here, go that direction, use the letters in the same way. Next one. Be this blue angle, and that's the whole angle. So we start here, start with that letter, then that one, then that one. 3 different angles. Next one. They say classify this, that means name it, like triangle, quadrilateral, so on and so on. To do that, all you do, count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. So you should be able to fill in the first blank, know what's got 8 sides. Look it up if you're not sure. And then tell whether it's concave or convex. Remember, concave will have some angle that sort of goes inward on the shape. Convex doesn't have any angles, and the thing is, the actual definition is this angle is more than 180 degrees. It's more than 180 degrees. Well, if this shape doesn't have any angles that's more than 180 degrees, then that tells us it would be convex. 25, name the bisector and find segment AB. When you're naming the bisector, the first blank on this one, you could name it with just this point right here because that point bisects it. These 2 tick marks again tell us that they're equal to each other. Could just name it point whatever that is, or you could name it as a ray coming out like that with the 2 letters, or you could name it as the whole line. That's the bisector. The second answer they want is the length of segment AB. Well, these tick marks tell us that these the distance from A to M and the distance from M to B should be the same. Well, they tell you the distance from M to B, so you should be able to write in the distance from A to M. And then once you know that distance, you add that one and this one, and that's going to give you your answer, your second answer. How long is the whole thing? Next one, find the measure of angle FBE. FBE ran like this. Well, notice it didn't start at 0. All we got to do to find the measure of it is count. There's 10. Then 20, and you're going to keep going around. Now when you get around to here, notice that it doesn't go another whole 10 over to there. So you're just going to have to count the little spaces till you get to the blue segment there, and that's going to add that to whatever you came up with back through here. So you're finding that distance. So you go 10, 20, 30, so on all the way around till you get to right here. Then you just start counting by ones. Next one, find this angle. Well, this one does start at 0, so it's a little bit easier. I look at this, oops, I forgot something on the last one. On the last one, they also ask you to classify the angle. Well, when you're classifying it, what that means with an angle is you're going to either say it's acute, obtuse, right, or straight. You got to pick one of those and decide which one is this. Is it an acute angle? Is it an obtuse angle? Is it a right angle? Is it a straight angle? So you got to make that decision for that one. Next one, same idea on this one. You got to tell whether it's acute or obtuse. Well, I'm hoping that you can look at that and know which one of those it is, so that will give you your second answer. Then to get the measurement of it, you're just going to go around and you're going to use this top set of numbers. Gets out to 110, but it doesn't make it to 120, then you got to count the little spaces in between there again. So from 110 up to whatever there. Next one, they tell us that angle B is congruent to angle C, so it means that this whole angle is the exact same measure as that whole angle. Well, if those two are congruent, then that means these two expressions are equal to each other. So I'm going to just set up the equation. 2x plus 47 equals 9x plus 33. You're going to solve that. You're going to solve for x. Once you find x, they want you to find the measure of angle B. So you're going to take that answer that you get for x and you're going to stick it right in here in place of x. So you do 2 times whatever you find, put it right in there, plus 47, and that's going to be the measure of angle B. That's going to be your answer. 29 through 31, they give you this picture right here, and they want you to do these things on it. Name plane A and W 2 ways. Different ways to name a plane. If they give you a letter in the corner of a plane all by itself, hint, hint, then you can use just that letter to name the plane. But you have to use the word plane and then that letter. Another way to name a plane is to pick any 3 points that fall on the plane. Any 3 points that fall on the plane. Actually here, I pointed at S. S would not fall on the plane because that line is going through the plane. So don't count S. But any 3 other points that fall on the plane could be used to name it. But again, you still got to use the word plane. Name line WP in 2 other ways. The line WP is right here. With the line, it doesn't matter which 2 letters you pick on it. Pick any 2 letters and you put them underneath that line symbol, and that's ways to name it. 31 said 3 collinear points. That just means 3 points on the same line. So don't make that harder than it is. Just name point something. Make sure you write out the word point. Point something. Point something. So on, so on, for 3 of them. And then you wanted 4 coplanar points. Well, 4 coplanar points, points that all fall on this same plane. Now I messed up and accepted S, I wasn't paying attention. S really doesn't fall on that plane because that's showing that line going through the plane. So you'd have to pick points that actually fall on the plane. Next. 32, they wanted the distance between here and here. Well, to find that distance, all you got to remember is segment addition postulate. This segment plus this segment should equal the whole thing. So all you're going to do there is add those 2 up, and that's going to give you that first answer. Then they wanted you to figure out the rate, how fast the ship was going, the speed of the ship in miles per hour. Well, all you're going to do there is you're going to know the distance from this answer right here, so you'll know that. The rate's what you're looking for. The time they told us was 18 hours. Well, if you turn this around and look at it and say 18 times R equals whatever that distance is that you got from up there, then you know all you got to do is divide both sides by 18, and that's going to tell you how fast the ship was going in miles per hour. So your answer down here would be in miles per hour. Next one, they want us to name 2 supplementary angles. Well, supplementary means they add up to 180. So you want to come over here and pick 2 of these angles and tell the 2 that add up to 180. Remember, when you're naming them, you're going to use 3 letters and the angle symbol. So it might be like on the first one, I'll give you a little hint on the first one. One of the angles that you're going to use on the first one is angle ZQR. That's one of your answers on number 33, ZQR. Now you want to find another angle that along with that one adds up to 180. Next one says complementary. Make sure you name using the angle symbol and 3 letters. Complementary, that means they add up to 90. And I'll give you another hint on this one. Two angles in this picture that add up to 90. One of them is angle PS. I think that should be an O, not a Q. That's supposed to be an O there. PSO. And then you have to find the other angle that along with PSO, angle PSO adds up to 90. Next one, angle 12, and which angle are vertical angles? Remember, when you draw any two lines, vertical angles are the non-adjacent angles. So if I'm looking at this, that's angle 1, that's angle 2, 3, 4. Adjacent are the ones that are neighbors to each other. So like 1 and 3, 1 and 2, those are adjacent. Ones that are not adjacent to each other would be like angle 3 and angle 2. Those are the vertical angles. So then you look over here at angle 12 and you figure out which vertical angle it is. Make sure you use the angle symbol. So angle, then you just write in the number right there for whichever one's vertical to angle 12. Like if I'm looking down here at angle 7, I know angle 7 and angle 9 are vertical angles. 36, graph the pairs of points, then count to see if the segments are congruent. I'm not going to do this for you. Just graph the points, make sure you graph them. So you go for R, you go 1, 2, 3, and then up 7. That's going to be R. Then you got S is 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and up 7. And if you graph it on the little graph they give you like they ask you to, you should be able to just count the spaces in between those two and see how long it is. And then you're going to do the same thing for T and U. I think T and U is going to go something like this. And you're just going to count these spaces, count the spaces in between there. That's going to tell you how long it is. And you can tell whether they're congruent or not by if their lengths are the same. So if they have the same length, then you put yes, they are congruent. Alright, that's the end of the video. Hopefully that'll help you redo the test, get you some extra points.